All right, chapter 42, air operations and, ambulance operations and air medical response. All right, we're going to go over the culture of safety in EMS, crew resource management, driving the actual ambulance, supporting devices, roadway incident scene safety, phases of an actual ambulance call, air medical transport, security, and safety. All right, EMTs Gary and Harold are completing their pre-shift vehicle inspection when they're dispatched for a report of a vehicle collision. All right, here we go. What steps do Gary and Harold need to take before heading to the scene? Make sure they got all their equipment. All right. They need to know what kind of weather it is. Is that going to make a difference? Is the weather going to make a difference?
Not for an ambulance.
You don't think so?
The time of the response.
Day, night traffic.
Day, night, traffic? Is it rush hour? Is there potholes in roads in Louisiana where you can't drive 85 miles an hour down the road? Is there a school zone between here and there? All right.
Is there a train?
Is there a train? There's a lot of things that go into responding to a call. Okay. How will Gary and Harold decide the best route of travel to reach their destination? If you say GPS, I'm probably going to smack you upside the head. Brandon. All right. The best way is to be familiar with your area. Know where those school zones are. Know what time that train comes through. Trains are just like everything else. They keep a schedule. Okay? What actions must they take to minimize their chance of being in a collision during a response? You have to watch other people more than you watch yourself. This is even in your personal vehicles. You have to watch other people way more than you have to watch yourself. Because they're texting and eating, and I've even put makeup on driving 80 miles an hour down the interstate. Don't tell anybody, but I have. Okay? The phone has rang. The email has dinged. My email dings every 5 minutes. Okay? I'm guilty. All right. An ambulance should be a place of comfort and support to patients. And whoever wrote this book has apparently never been in an ambulance because it is not comfortable. All right. You must be able to skillfully operate an ambulance. And yes, this is a skill. This is not something you're born with. All right. This is something you're going to develop. All right. And this chapter describes the elements of creating a culture of safety and how to operate an ambulance with safety in mind. All right, just culture. Reporting errors must be valued as crucial in improving safety. When risks are identified, the EMS system and personnel must strive to correct the risk to prevent or reduce the chance of that same error occurring again. Okay, what is the definition of insanity?
Doing the same thing over and over again.
And expecting a different result. Okay, well, this is us being sane. Okay. All right, the benefits of crew resource management. All right, it minimizes errors. It improves safety of the EMS crew, patients, and the public. It improves the EMS team's performance because you are a team. All right. That medic is only as good as that basic. All right. I have people that I prefer to work with because we work hand in hand together. All right. And when I work with somebody that I'm not used to, I'm a little bit out of my comfort zone. Do you think that's going to matter to my patients? It's going to make a big deal to my patients. Okay. It also increases situational awareness. And it allows all EMS crew members to have equal value and input into situations. All right, characteristics of an effective team leader. They create, implement, and revise an action plan. communicates accurately and concisely while listening and encouraging feedback, receives, processes, verifies, and prioritizes information, reconciles incongruent information, demonstrates confidence, compassion, maturity, and commands presence, demonstrates a role or authority for groups at a scene, maintains accountability for teams' actions and outcomes, assesses the situation and resources and modifies them accordingly, utilizes appreciative inquiry, and advocacy when miscommunication or potential errors occur, report progress on task, addresses safety concerns, and is always safety conscious. There you go, ding ding. All right, effective use of crew management can reduce errors in patient care, better protect the safety of EMS personnel and the public. All right. Laws and regulations according to operating an ambulance. Most states give you the privilege, right? It's not a right, it's a privilege, with proper precautions to do the following while driving an ambulance to an emergency. You may exceed the speed limit posted for the area only if you are not endangering the lives of property. Most places, most private services only allow you to go 10 miles per hour over the posted speed limit. Okay? So what's the speed limit coming through Monroe? 60. What do most people drive? Okay? So if you're following the laws and you're driving 70 through Monroe, people are passing you up left and right, huh? But let's say you're driving 80 and something happens. Who's going to be at fault? You're going to be at fault. Okay? So keep that in mind. They allow you to drive the wrong way down a one-way street or drive down the opposite side of the road. You can turn in any direction in the intersection. All right? Park anywhere as long as you do not endanger lives or property. You can leave the ambulance standing in the middle of a street or an intersection. Cautiously proceed through a red light or red flashing signal. Let me touch a little bit more on that. Most services make you come to a complete stop at a red light. Okay? So keep that in mind. You must stop at the red light and you have to clear each lane of traffic. All right? So if there's 6 lanes over here, and you got to make eye contact with all 6 drivers. There's 6 lanes over here, you got to make eye contact with all 6 of those drivers. Okay? And you can pass other vehicles in a no passing zone. You can cautiously move through a red light, but you must slow down while entering the intersection so that all traffic can stop to allow you to pass. You can park your ambulance anywhere to care for a patient, but you must not park it over the crest of a hill on a busy highway unless you post flares or get a police officer or a volunteer to divert traffic out of that roadway. Okay? The law states that if you do not exercise due regard for the safety of others, you are liable for the consequences. All right? Everybody needs to know what that is. Due regard. If you don't think about everybody else first, then you are liable for those consequences. Okay? If you wreck an ambulance and you kill somebody, then what do you think you're going to be charged with? Manslaughter. Okay? Many EMS systems provide additional guidance. For instance, some specify that your top speed cannot be more than 10 miles per hour over the posted speed limit. This allows the emergency vehicle to overtake other moving traffic, but promotes safer driving. In some areas, entering an intersection against the light must come to a complete stop before proceeding. All right? That's not something you're really going to see around here. The private services that I used to work for, if you got caught running a red light, that was it. No questions asked. You were automatically terminated. If you got caught not wearing your seatbelt, that was it. No questions asked. Automatically terminated. There are tattletales in that ambulance that will tell on you. Okay? If you go over the posted speed limit, it's going to send a message to somebody and be like, hey, Unit 5 is running 90 miles an hour down the interstate. And I promise you, they can pull up Google Maps or their little tracking system, and they can see everywhere your ambulance is now. They can see the current rate that you're going, what destination you're going to, probably what patients you have on that truck, the whole 9 yards. Okay? All right, the basics of good driving. Wear your seatbelt. Hold the steering wheel with both hands. Practice with the vehicle you will drive. Okay? If you drive a little Honda Civic, do you think you're going to be able to get in a big, gigantic ambulance and be proficient with it? Let me tell you, you're not going to be able to do that. Okay? So you need to practice with the vehicle that you're going to drive. All right? You also need to watch for weather conditions, road conditions. All right? Everybody knows that there are certain roads that hold water. All right? Highway 65 coming from Lake Providence holds water. Bad. All right? There's a place right there in Rayville that holds water. Pretty bad. Okay? So learning these situations, and when the weather's bad, recognizing that, hey, this place up here is going to have some water in the road, I probably need to slow down. All right? That's the basics of good driving. You also want to select the best route. Maintain a safe following distance. Do you think a ambulance is going to be able to stop at the same distance that a Honda Civic would? It's not, okay? Not at all. You want to always use your headlights and exercise caution when using warning devices. Please don't be in a hurry, forget to turn your lights on, and you run up behind blue-haired granny. All of a sudden, you flick your lights on, you hit the siren, and you hit the air horn, okay? You can cause granny to have a heart attack. She's going to run off the road, and, you know, you're going to have another patient besides the one you're going to get. For vehicle control, remember the rule about speed. Go the posted speed limit unless the situation is critical. Speed can complicate patient care by providing a rougher ride. Decreased ambulance stability and the risk of safety of everyone in the ambulance. Okay? This is something that my partner's really good about, especially with a critical patient. Okay? We load the critical patient up. I get one set of vital signs, and we're ready to go. The rest of it I'm doing on the way. Do you think I'm going to be able to start IVs or intubate or keep a good seal on a face mask if I'm bagging somebody going 85 miles an hour down the road and she's turning this way and slinging me all around the back of that truck? Am I going to be able to provide care, proper care for that patient? I'm not, okay? So that's something else you need to think about. Somebody said something about this morning about EMTs. They just drive the truck, they do this, they do that, and I'm like, you're not just an ambulance driver, okay? If you think about it, you probably save more lives than I do. All right? Number one, you have your life on the line. Number two, if I work with you, I trust you enough to put my life in your hands. Okay? And number three, you also have that patient's life in your hands. All right? And how you drive can dictate the type of care that I can give that patient. All right. Sudden braking can result in loss of control. In older ambulances without anti-locking brake systems, the brakes cause the wheels to lock, and the vehicle may skid dangerously. And these vehicles pump the brakes slowly and smoothly. Newer ambulances have the anti-braking system, and you just firmly apply firm, steady pressure to the brakes. Remember that those driving the vehicles around the ambulance may be distracted by cell phone use, loud music, conversations, eating, drinking, or other things, okay? And they may be those rubberneckers. Oh, look, here comes the ambulance. It's got its license. I wonder who's in there. Okay? You're going to see a lot of that in this field as well. You're going to have those family members that tailgate you the entire way to the hospital with their flashers on, okay? I don't care how critical that patient is, my partner knows to pull her butt over on the side of the road and get out and tell them, back off. Alright? You need to maintain focus on the safety operation of the ambulance and the safe transportation of the crew and the patient. Driving while fatigued greatly increases the risk of an accident. Proper rest and nutrition can decrease this risk. Alright? When on duty, EMTs need to be physically prepared for any driving situation that can arise. Alright? When I work 24-hour shifts, I try to get me a little cat nap in, usually from anywhere from 2 to 5 o'clock, because I may be up all night. You know, in the duration of this class, you will see me drag myself up in here at 8 o'clock on a Monday morning after being at East Carroll for 5 24-hour shifts, and I'm going to be tired as all get out. Alright? There's simply no way to get around a train. If there's simply no way, such as an overpass or an underpass, you need to wait it out, okay? Don't try to beat that train across the tracks. You're not going to win. Be especially alert when approaching a stopped school bus with its lights flashing. You must always be prepared for the possibility that a kid could dart out across the road heading to or from the bus. Some states have laws regulating regarding ambulances and school buses, but it varies from state to state. In some, an ambulance must come to a full stop and remain stopped until signaled ahead by the bus driver. On bridges and overpasses or tunnels, alright, there is little room for passing. If you are in a heavily congested traffic near a bridge or tunnel, consider an alternate route. When you're in a tunnel, go in with the flow of traffic at a safe speed until you emerge. Alright, you can expect less traffic on work days in most areas. Rush hour traffic is more congested in most urban centers than rural areas, so you need to plan accordingly. Always be on the lookout for potholes and bumps. The goal is to give the patient the smoothest ride possible. Alright, let's talk about potholes and bumps. Alright? When I'm in the back giving a medicine, okay, usually we draw up more than what we need, so we only have to draw it up once. Alright, we can waste it later. Alright, if I've got 10 cc's of morphine pulled up to give this patient, and I'm only planning on giving them 4, alright, I get that 4 in, and we hit a bump, and I accidentally give them, I don't know, 4 more, that's not going to turn out very well, huh? Alright? So that's another reason why you need to watch road conditions, alright? Give your partner a heads up. Hey, we're coming off a bridge or a big bump ahead or something, okay? It's all about communication. Curves can be dangerous in an ambulance because ambulances are generally top heavy and they can what? They can roll, okay? Always brake to a desired speed before entering a curve and accelerate on the way out of the turn. Always use smooth braking motions and remember that it will take longer for an ambulance to slow down, especially at a higher rate of speed. Aggressive drivers can pose a significant risk to you and your vehicle. If you notice another vehicle weaving in and out of traffic, speeding, or otherwise driving in an aggressive or erratic manner, exercise extreme caution when approaching or passing that vehicle. Aggressive drivers are often distracted and may not even notice the presence of the ambulance. This is another big one. This is one of my pet peeves, okay? Using a police or other emergency vehicle escort is dangerous. Not only to the escort, but also to the ambulance. To you, to me, to the patient, okay? So, why do y'all think this is? Why do you think if you get a police escort or a fire department escort to the hospital because you've got a bad patient, why do you think that's a bad thing?
Because they reckon for you and you're gonna reckon with them.
Okay. Well, that's one thing. Alright? When you're stopped at a red light and you see a police car coming through, he has the red light, you have the green light. Are you expecting just that one vehicle? Yep. So what are you gonna do? Once that police car makes it through that intersection, what are you gonna do? You're gonna go. When you do that, what are you gonna run into? Another ambulance. Okay? So please do not do this if at all possible. Okay? Alright. A motorist approaches the intersection just as the light changes. They don't want to sit through the red light, so they sail through the intersection. Alright? There are two emergency vehicles when motorists expect only one, like we just talked about. Vehicles waiting at the intersection may block your view of pedestrians in the crosswalk. Alright? Slow down and anticipate people in the intersection. Alright, inclement weather. Keep your mirrors cleared of water. Avoid sudden braking and sudden moves of the steering wheel. If you're about to go through a large standing puddle, slow down. Turn your wipers on before you go through the water. As you leave the water, tap the brake lightly a few times to dry it out. If the ambulance pulls to one side, pump the brake slowly and smoothly to dry the brakes out. If you start to hydroplane, hold the steering wheel steady. Take your foot off the accelerator and gently pump the brake. Make sure that your engine is tuned, your heater and defroster are in good working order, and your battery is charged. Alright, you need to carry emergency weather equipment, chains, shovels, sand, booster cables, and a towing device. Alright, we really don't have to worry about the sand and, chains, all that kind of stuff. Alright, however, it is very easy to run the battery down on an ambulance. Ours has, the big ones that we have 6, and we left a power mirror on one day, and it completely drained all 6 of those. Yeah, it was crazy. Turn your lights on regardless of the time of day, and use your wipers. Never use high beams on your headlights. The reflection of the high beams from the fog can reduce your ability to see. Even if lights do not improve your ability to see ahead, they can make it possible for other motorists to see you better. If you're traveling 15 miles per hour or more below the speed limit, use your flashers. Okay? Also, use your flashers if you pull off to the side of the road. Alright, if you pull off to the side of the road, you better have those emergency lights going too. Alright? You want to be as visible as possible. Alright, to improve your visibility, make sure that your ambulance has quartz halogen headlights, which provide more light on the road. Have your headlights on whenever you travel in an emergency. Most of the ambulances now, they have those automatic lights, the daytime running lights or whatever. It's like a safety feature. Keep your headlights clean and properly aimed. Check them each day at the beginning of your shift. If the weather is bad, especially if there's sleet and snow, stop as often as necessary during your shift and clean the debris off your headlights. You need to go ahead and replace burned out bulbs immediately. Alright, dim your light beams within 500 feet of an approaching vehicle or within 300 feet of a vehicle in front of you. Never stare into high beams of another car. Guide your ambulance by watching the right edge of the road. Don't flick your lights at people. Alright, it can blind them. Never use high beams when going into a curve. Keep your windshield clean inside and out. Keep a bottle of windshield cleaner, glass cleaner in the ambulance. Keep your instrument panels dim. Keep your eyes moving. Avoid focusing on any one object. That's what makes you sleepy. Alright? Where your eyes are going, that's where you're going, whether you want to or not. Alright, be sure that you're rested before you begin a night driving shift. Alright, between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m., be particularly alert for intoxicated or drowsy drivers. If you notice erratic speeds, weaving across lines, or delayed starts at an intersection, use extreme caution when passing them. Night vision varies considerably among people. Older people generally cannot see well in the dark. This is me. An eye strain can substantially reduce night vision. Thank God I don't have to drive, y'all, because we would not get anywhere at East Carroll. All right. I ain't the bestest driver anyway. My driver's license at East Carroll has been revoked. But however, that's a story for another day. Always take the increased risk of warning device usage into consideration, all right, and weigh it against the benefit of saving a few minutes in transit time. Most agencies in many counties and states have specific protocols for the use of these devices. Remember, they are only a means of requesting the right-of-way from others on the road and do not give the ambulance any specific rights or guarantees of clear traffic. Okay? These people do not have to get out of the way for you. I'm gonna look at myself one day. 9 times out of 10, unless it's like a cardiac arrest, shortness of breath, chest pain, we don't run lights and sirens at East Carroll. Okay? Number one, it freaks people out, and they wob and weave and go here and go. They don't know what to do. Even though I clearly remember it being in my driver's license test, they still don't know what to do. A lot of times, you're not going to get there any faster. It's probably going to slow you down if you run lights and sirens, because people are going to be looking and where they going and who they going to get, and all this kind of thing, okay? Colors and markings of your ambulances. The standard color is white. The markings are an orange stripe running around the body, blue lettering, and a Star of Life symbol. It is recommended that any added lettering be kept below the orange stripe so as not to distract from the basic markings. For maximum effectiveness, these standard colors and markings should not be duplicated on vehicles that are not ambulances. Y'all know them cop cars that they decommission and then they sell them? They still got the little spotlight on them? Yeah, them suckers get me every time. Because, you know, I like to speed. I work on an ambulance, for God's sakes. I mean, you know what I mean? Sometimes you forget you're in your personal vehicle. And, yeah, those things will put the fear of God in you real quick. All right, the colors and markings on an ambulance are to aid traffic safety and reduce the need for excessive dependence on lights and sirens. An early U.S. Department of Transportation, DOT, EMS study, ambulance design criteria by the National Academy of Sciences recommended a nationwide system of specific colors and markings. A lot of the backs of the ambulances, they have that reflective paint on them, kind of like the vest that you're supposed to wear, all right? A lot of times they'll even have that on top. They'll have that 27 painted on top. Or if you're meeting a helicopter or something, they can identify which ambulance they need to come into contact with, okay? A lot of the services here now, I don't know how well throughout the state or the country this is going, but those 2 top wigwag lights on the top, not the 3 in the middle, but the 2 on the outside, they're now using blue for those, okay? Nobody really cares if it's a red light or a white light. But they slow way down when it's a blue light. I know I do. Yes. So, keep that in mind. Alright. Use your headlights even in the daylight. Lights are placed at various locations for visibility. And this is white lights are more visible than red and blue. You know, they may be more visible, but what's going to make people slow down and take notice?
Blue, red.
The blue.
Flash of blue.
The blue.
Mm-hmm.
The blue. Okay? So, siren noise is greatly reduced inside vehicles. Alright? Cars are made so not airtight, but noise tight. There's another
Soundproof.
soundproof. That's what I'm looking for. Thank you, Chad.
You're welcome. Thank you.
They're made so soundproof now that you're not going to hear that ambulance until they get right up on you, okay? Also, think about this. If you're that patient in the back of the truck and they have that siren going, do you think that's going to increase your stress level or decrease your stress level? It's going to increase your stress level because you're going to be thinking, holy crap, something's really wrong with me. And usually they got lights and sirens on. It is, all right? It's not for a stove toe. So, also, the sirens can blend into each other, all right? An ambulance siren, a police siren, and a fire department siren. If you hear one, you cannot hear the other, okay? So consider that. That's another reason why we don't do the, what we just talked about. The escort to the hospital. Your air horn. Consider using the air horn when there's a need to clear traffic quickly. Alright, if you're going to a wreck on the interstate, alright, and traffic is backed up, please do not run up behind that car and just lay on the air horn. Okay? They have nowhere to go. All you're going to do is aggravate that driver, you're going to aggravate your paramedic, and there's nothing they can do. You know what I mean? They got to get out the way, somewhat one way or another. And they can't move until somebody else moves, all right? And the person that needs to move probably can't hear that air horn coming. All right. Gary and Harold spot the collision just ahead of them, and Gary notifies dispatch that they are on the scene. What should Gary and Harold consider in determining how and where to park their ambulance? They want to park it right beside the wreck. They want to park it behind the wreck. They want to park it on the other side of the wreck in the creek. Or they want to park it in front of the wreck.
Should be in front of the wreck, pulled on to the shoulder, angled out.
Okay. Everybody agree with that?
I guess that would determine on how where the wreck's located.
Where the wreck's located. What else
I mean, if
is
it's down
a
in the
factor
ditch,
in
you're not
that?
gonna park right beside it.
What else is a factor in that?
Oncoming traffic.
Okay, traffic.
Debris in
So
the
it could be,
road.
so it could be spotted, clearly visible.
Okay. What if there's a police car already on scene, or a fire department already on scene, or what if you're the first one there? Is that going to determine how you park your vehicle? Okay, it is. All right, EMS personnel must set up a safe environment when working on or near a roadway. All right, we've already talked about these crazy drivers. They don't give a crap about you. They don't give a crap about me. But what they do give a crap about is who was injured in that wreck. All right, they're not looking for you. They're looking at who's in that car. How bad they hurt. How bad they hurt. All right, poor visibility and impaired, distracted, and or inexperienced drivers are all factors in roadway incident injuries. All right, we discussed this already. You gotta wear your vest, your high visibility vest. My shipment came in yesterday, I believe, so I should have them Thursday. I have pin lights, goggles, shears, vest. Okay, you're going to need those for your clinicals. All right, do not approach or do not trust approaching traffic. Do not ever turn your back to traffic, okay? Use the first arriving emergency vehicle to create a barrier between the traffic and the actual car wreck, all right? You want to be on the other side of that. You want that fire truck, that police car, that ambulance. An ambulance can be replaced, all right? You're doing what you're supposed to do. You parking where you're supposed to park. You can't help it that somebody wasn't paying attention and ran over your truck. I would much rather them run over your truck than run over and hurt you, your partner, your patient, okay? You want to wear your vest, and at night, turn off vision impairing lights, okay? If your circumstances allow, all right, use a fire truck to block that traffic, okay? They're bigger, they're longer. It's going to take more of an impact than an ambulance or a police car, okay? Use warning signs, traffic control measures upstream of the scene, all right? This is what your sheriff's department, police department, all right? They should be directing traffic, making them slow down. Use traffic cones if you got them. I don't think I've ever been in an ambulance with traffic cones. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Place vehicles uphill, upwind, in hazardous conditions, all right, when hazardous materials are there. The major phases of a call, all right, you have a daily vehicle and equipment preparation. Dispatch, you're en route to the scene, you're at the scene, en route to the receiving facility, at the receiving facility. Post-run to the station, or en route to the station and post-run. The key to response readiness is to properly maintain your equipment and your ambulance, all right? Always having a vehicle ready to respond in all conditions and equipped with all necessary supplies can ensure that you can reach your patients. Basic ambulance maintenance includes oil and filter changes, transmission and differential checks, wheel bearing checks, brake checks, and tie rod end inspections. You probably ain't gonna do that every day, okay? Because I wouldn't know where to find a tire rod end or a wheel bearing to save my life.
Just have the bulge on.
Okay. You take care of the vehicle, I take care of the people, okay?
Alright.
We check, at East Carroll, we check oil, we check the belts, we check transmission fluid, wiper fluid, and the air in the tires, and I'm sure there's something I'll leave out because I'm usually in the front looking through my drugs and stuff. That's usually something my partner takes care of, okay? But for all the major things, we send them out somewhere. We send them out to get tires, we send them out to get alignments, we send them out to get the big thing is air conditioners. The air conditioner in an ambulance is beyond ridiculous, okay? So just be familiar with your services, policies, and procedures, all right? Always report if something is not right. If you get in a truck and you know that that tire is going flat, or you know that the transmission has been acting up, and you still get in that truck and you drive it anyway without reporting it, you could be held liable if something happens. Okay? Alright. Yeah. Alright. We want to check the fuel, oil, fluid circulation system. I don't even know what that is. Batteries, I know where at least one of those are. I know the brakes are on the tires, or somewhere around about there. It makes it stop, okay? Tires and wheels, shoreline power connectors, and headlights. Yeah. Does anybody know what a shoreline power connector is?
Isn't that the cord that you plug into the ambulance?
Yes, you plug it into the ambulance, okay? It keeps, most ambulances are diesel, okay? They have glow plugs. That glow plug has to warm up before a diesel engine will crank. So in the winter, when it starts getting cool, we plug the ambulances up, okay? That way, if we have to go out in the middle of the night, and it's 20 degrees outside, it won't take us 15 minutes to get the ambulance cranked, all right? The glow plugs will still be warm. There's also a heater in there, and it keeps, things heated. You got brake lights, turn signals. Check your emergency lights. Make sure they're all in working order. Wipers, horn, siren, windows, door closing, and latch devices. I believe there was a picture on Facebook a couple years ago where there was an ambulance driving down the interstate with the back doors open. Somebody forgot to close doors. You also have a power system. Air conditioner, heater, ventilation systems. Make sure your seat belts work, your dash lights work. Radiator hoses and fan belts. Radio, the one you talk on and the one that sings to you. The one that sings to you is, to me, a little bit more important than the one you talk on most of the time. Make sure you got your supplies and your interior and exterior are clean, okay? There's a crew checking the tires for inflation, wear, and danger spots, okay? We put a lot of miles on these trucks. They run through more conditions than what your vehicle will run through, okay? Make sure all your lights are functioning. You turn the emergency lights on, you walk all the way around your truck. Turn your scene lights on, you walk all the way around your truck, okay? Check your belts and hoses. My ambulance has belts and hoses, so that's a check. Check all fluid levels and keep them up. Yeah, it's got oil in it, and it may have some transmission fluid in it. All right, your ambulance must contain supplies and equipment for handling medical emergencies, injuries, extractions, getting people out of a vehicle, like a backboard, C-collar, all that good stuff, not tooth extractions, and childbirth. Supplies and equipment should be checked each day and restocked or cleaned and maintained. A properly equipped and maintained ambulance is important for pre-hospital care. Proper trained personnel to operate the ambulance and making optimum use of its equipment are extremely important. All right, non-medical stuff. You need your PPE. You need gloves. This day and age, you need N95 masks. You need goggles. You go to the scene of a wreck, you need to have your vest on. Even if you're in a parking lot, I believe you're still, at some places, made to wear vests. Is that correct? Even if you're in a parking lot?
Yeah, if you're really Katie.
Okay. And you want to know your routes and stuff, all right? You need a comprehensive street map and know your routes. I know at East Carroll, if you go out in the parish, GPS ain't going to help you, all right? Learned my lesson the hard way about that. I got all kinds of turned around. All right, the dispatcher should provide you with the following information. Location of the call, nature of the call, what is the caller calling for, okay, what's their problem, name, location, and a callback number, location of the patient or patients at the scene, the severity of injuries, yeah, good luck with that, any other special problems or circumstances that might be pertinent to the situation. All right, en route to the scene, you want to check your vehicle's exterior compartments. Make sure when you pull off, your backboards aren't laying in the bay when you get to the scene. Put your seatbelt on, all right? Verify your dispatch information. Listen for any updates. Is the fire department responding? Is the sheriff's department responding? Is the police department responding? Are they going to beat you on scene? When they get on scene, can they give you any updates of how many patients, what the status of the patients are, okay? You want to anticipate the equipment that you may need. If you're going to a wreck, you're probably going to need a long backboard. You're going to need a C-collar. Drive responsibly, okay? That whole due regard thing, that comes back to us. That is a personal responsibility to ourselves. Determine crew members' scene duties and request ALS if necessary, okay? At the scene, pay attention to any downed electrical lines, leaking fluid, or fuels from accident or vehicles involved in accidents. Smoke or fire, broken glass, trapped or ejected patients. You want to look at the vehicle and see the mechanism of injury, okay? And other indicators to increase risk to you, your crew, or your patients. All right, we're going to go over this more a little bit, a lot more in depth in the scene size up chapter. All right, if other emergency vehicles are on the scene and are positioned to block the scene, park in front of or behind a collision, but never alongside. Stay a minimum of 100 feet from the wreckage or a burning vehicle and 2,000 feet from a hazardous material spill, ideally uphill and upwind. In EMS, we use the rule of thumb, all right? If you go to a hazmat scene and you can stick that thumb up and you can still see what's going on, you are a tad too close, all right? For motor vehicle crashes, carefully gain access to the patient or patients and extricate them safely. Take the time needed to properly splint and immobilize injured extremities before you move the patient unless they are deemed to be a high priority patient, unless they are critical and they need immediate transport. Then we do not stabilize extremities, all right? Carefully remove the patient from any wreckage and move them to the ambulance, choosing methods of moving the patient based on their illness or injury. Transfer the patient to the waiting ambulance. Keep them warm and watch for any changes in their condition. Make sure they are securely strapped to the stretcher. Okay? The vehicle driver should quickly check the unit, making sure all the outside compartments and doors are closed and secured. All personnel should be properly seated and secured with safety belts. All right? Your medic in the back, they're supposed to wear their belt if they're not actively doing something. Okay? But usually, if I'm hauling 2 patients, maybe 3 patients, I've hauled, I think, 6 in a truck before. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I've hauled up to 6 people in one truck. I was not able to wear a seatbelt because I had no seatbelt to wear. Okay, all my seats were taken. I had to stand up the whole way. All right. Determine the necessity of using lights and sirens during the transport. Begin your assessment. Notify dispatch that you're en route to the hospital. Check any patient interventions. If a patient's relative or friend accompanies them, follow local guidelines as to where this person should sit. All right, as of right now, I don't believe any ambulance services are allowing riders unless it's a minor child. Okay. Focus on the patient. Reassure them as often as you can. The driver should drive prudently and use only necessary speed and obey all regulations. If you're the EMT with the patient, you should keep the driver informed of the patient's condition. If the patient condition worsens and it becomes urgent to reach the hospital immediately, and tell your driver so they can proceed as quickly as possible. All right. Me personally, a lot of times I'm not going to reach out and be like, "Hey Suzanne, they're coding on me back here." I'm gonna be like, "Look, get me somewhere." And she knows that means I'm in a bad situation. My patient's in a bad situation. And Dakota knows the same thing, okay? I'm not gonna be like, hey, we need to kind of speed things up a little bit. Make sure your patient is settled and securely strapped to the cot before the ambulance moves. Also, let's go back to this up here. One thing you want to make sure of is when you take them out of the ambulance, this little oxygen thing right here is disconnected. Don't ask me how. I know. You'll learn. I promise. It's coming with time. Check any patient interventions. Make sure oxygen is delivered at the correct flow rate. Begin your reassessment. This includes reassessment of the patient's mental status, airway, breathing, recording vital signs. Conduct a reassessment at least every 15 minutes for stable and every 5 minutes for an unstable. In this class, we conduct a reassessment every 10 minutes for stable patients and every 5 minutes for unstable. You would be surprised at what you can see change in 5 minutes. Notify dispatch that you are en route to the hospital. Follow your local protocols regarding transmission of additional patient information. Notify the receiving facility as soon as your patient's condition permits you to call in a report. Sometimes this might not be possible. In those situations in which the patient condition demands your full attention, request that your partner notify the hospital. Okay? That's why we practice a lot in here on giving patient reports, giving verbal reports and stuff. Because if you're working with a medic and they have their hands full in the back, they might not be able to call and give a patient report. They're going to be hollering things up to you. You're going to have to drive and talk to the hospital and remember the vital signs and what the car looked like and all that kind of stuff, okay? All right, focus on the patient and reassess them as often as you can. Notify dispatch that you're en route to the hospital. Follow your local protocols. And when you get to the hospital, you want to notify dispatch that you have arrived at the destination. At the receiving facility, you must make an official transfer of care to an appropriate healthcare provider at the receiving facility. You must make the transfer of care. Continue to concentrate your care on the patient. All right, pay particular attention to any equipment that the patient requires in the continuum of care. If the receiving facility is crowded, continue to care for your patient until you can officially transfer your patient care responsibilities to a qualified person. Around here, there's a lot of times where St. Francis is backed up. Glenwood's backed up. Alright, they're gonna be like, hey guys, it's gonna be about 15, 20 minutes. You brought your patient over to the wall and you stand there with your patient. Okay? Don't ever leave your patient unattended on a stretcher. When you can, transfer all records and information about the patient to the appropriate emergency personnel. To ensure proper continuity of care, complete an oral report should be given. Blah, blah, blah. We'll go over a lot more of that later. We're going to learn. All right. After you've released your patient to the emergency department, exchange any linens, spine boards, and other equipment you might have to leave at the hospital. All right. Make sure you have everything back on the truck that you need to. At the hospital, clean and inspect your ambulance, patient care equipment, reusable supplies, and patient care compartment before notifying dispatch that you are available. If your shift is particularly busy, this can be difficult. Always follow your agency's biohazard disposal procedures. Disinfect any reusable equipment that is for patient care. Okay? After some calls, the ambulance requires extensive cleaning, disinfecting, and restocking. It might be necessary to go out of service and return to the station to do this. All right, post-run, fill out any reports and file any reports required by your local protocol. Check your fuel, replace what you used, change your soiled uniforms. Okay, when you start working, you're gonna have to have 2 uniforms. You're gonna have to have one on your body and one just in case you get dirty during the shift. All right, you're not allowed to go home and change uniforms. You better bring it with you. All right, make up the wheel stretcher, lock it in place. Make sure when you leave the hospital you have your stretcher with you in the ambulance. Don't ask me how I know, but I know. Complete an inventory of equipment and supplies. Replace what you used during the run. Complete the cleaning and disinfecting. That's what Home Tater's doing there. All right, we want to clean up any visible spills of blood, vomitus, or other body fluids. Wash your hands. All right, the air boo-boo bus. All right, when to call air medical transport. All right, the patient transports to a distant facility. All right, prolonged extrication for a high priority patient. Air transport will save time over ground transport in a time critical patient. What do y'all thinking time critical patient would be?
Stroke patient.
Stroke. What else?
Cardiac arrest.
They're not gonna fly cardiac arrest. If you get it back, if you get ROSC, they will fly it. What'd you say, babe?
Gunshot, stabbing.
Gunshot, stabbings,
Crash from a wreck.
car wreck,
Amputation.
amputations, huh? Burn victims. All right. Yeah, y'all pretty much hit all those. You said stroke, right? Trauma. Oh, MI patients. People having an active MI. All right, that's time critical as well.
What's an MI?
A myocardial infarction, also known as a heart attack. It's called an acute MI, so we call it an AMI.
Okay.
Acute myocardial infarction. All right, ground ambulance transport is blocked. Specialty medical skills, supplies, or equipment are available. Some air medical services also provide aerial support to search and rescue operations. All right. Some other things they're going to do, they're going to fly acute strokes, head injuries with an altered mental status, chest or abdominal trauma with signs of respiratory distress, serious mechanisms of injury with unstable assessment or vital signs, and patients with penetrating injuries. When you call, all right, they need to know your name, your department name. They need a callback number. They need to know what kind of incident you are responding to or what you have going on scene. They need to know the exact location. Not necessarily, if they're doing a scene flight, they need to know where you are. But if you're picking that patient up and taking them to a helipad somewhere, they need to know what city the helipad is in. All right, East Carroll, we have our own helipad. We transport to the hospital. The helicopter lands, we put them on the helicopter. 9 times out of 10, they don't even go in RER. Okay? They need to know what radio frequency you're using and the exact location of landing zones and hazards. All right? And a lot of times, when you see these helicopters land, they will circle you 3 or 4 times. Okay? They're making passes to look for power lines. They're looking at the trees. They're looking for animals like cows, horses. Apparently cows and horses like helicopters. They become inquisitive and go up to it. Yeah. Who knew? Well, you know. And the helicopter has to pay for the horses. Yeah. Noise within the aircraft will limit your ability to conduct a thorough assessment of a patient, especially when hearing is necessary, such as monitoring breath sounds or auscultating blood pressure. Okay? If the landing site is a divided highway, stop the traffic going in both directions. Even though they're only going to land on one side, there's going to be all this rotor wash, and it can actually blow a car off the highway. Okay? Helicopters take off and land into the wind, or they like to take off and land into the wind, so you need to know which way the wind is blowing. During the day, they need a minimum of 60 foot by 60 foot for a landing zone. Okay? This is probably not something you're going to be doing. This is probably going to be the police department, fire department, okay? You're going to be in the back taking care of the patient. At night, they need 100 feet by 100 feet. All right? You need an extra cone or something, all right, to put in the direction of the wind, all right? So they know that's the way the wind's blowing. All right, be extremely cautious about rotor blades, all right? You see that helicopter right there? That man is approaching from the front. That is a big, big no-no. Do not ever approach from the front. Do not ever approach from the back. You see the skids right there? The thing that the helicopter lands on, those are called skids. Do not go past the front of that skid. Do not go past the end of that skid. Does everybody understand? Those blades, you can barely see them, and they will cut your head off. Ain't nothing nobody can do for you with your head cut off. Okay? Never approach a helicopter until the pilot or the flight crew signals you to approach. Okay? Especially if they're doing a what they call a hot load. Okay? Sometimes when they're coming into the hospital, they'll do what's called a cold load, or I think that's what they call it. Anyway, the pilot will shut the helicopter all the way down. All right? The crew gets out, they do their little safety check, they get their stuff, they come in the hospital. But if it's a scene flight, they're more than likely not going to cut those blades off. All right? They're not going to cut those rotors off. So that's something you need to pay particular attention to. You do not need to wear a hat around them. Okay? Make sure that when you move that patient from your stretcher to the helicopter, you have control of that sheet on your stretcher. All right? If that sheet blows up and it gets caught in the rotors, that helicopter is grounded. There's no flying for them. Okay? All right. If they are on an incline or a incline, always approach from the downhill side. If you come from that uphill side, that thing's gonna cut your head off. Okay? All right, operational security measures. There are recommended guidelines to avoid use of emergency vehicle in terrorist attacks and to reduce the risk of theft. All right, conduct safety security briefings each shift. EMS crews should be informed and allowed to participate in the development of safety measures. All right, all EMS vehicles are tracked. That includes vehicles that are in service, out of service, being repaired, and off service. It also includes reserve units and those units that are no longer in service and will be salvaged. Ensure that security measures are strongly enforced when the EMS vehicle is off the EMS premises for repairs or other work conducted by repair or installation facilities. These should include securing the vehicle indoors overnight when the facility is not open, not leaving the keys in the vehicle or a place where there is easy access. People will steal ambulances. Okay? If you leave the keys in the ignition and you go to St. Francis, they may have a psych patient that is on the loose. Okay? It happened in Jackson. Actually, it happened to one of my friends in Jackson that I went to EMT school with several years ago. He was working in Jackson. He left the keys in the ignition, and a psych patient from UMC came out and stole his truck. Thank God they were in the emergency room. But, however, it'll happen. All right. The EMS agency should provide identification credentials to anyone who is to purchase EMS uniforms or identification items. A check should be made against a database of authorized purchasers of these types of items. All right? You should not be able to just go in somewhere and buy a shirt that says paramedic or cop or nurse or whatever. Okay? You can, but you shouldn't be able to. All right, carbon monoxide in ambulances can come from the vehicle's exhaust. Equipment is powered by gasoline or fuel, okay? Most of them are going to gasoline now. We just got a gas burner probably about a year ago at East Carroll. It doesn't have the power that a diesel has, but it's a lot quieter. I still don't like it, but, you know. The exhaust of the vehicle parked next to or traveling by the ambulance. There's a greater outside pressure, which forces the carbon dioxide into the ambulance. So if you're riding along on a long transfer and you start getting a headache, it's probably carbon monoxide. All right, to prevent this, make sure your engines get tuned up frequently. Have an adequate exhaust system. Keep the rear windows shut. I didn't even know the rear windows would open. Make sure doors shut tightly. Cover any opening to the outside. Don't use exhaust fans or static vents. Keep the heater or AC on. All right, Gerald and Harry parked the. Gerald and Harold. Gary. Lord have mercy.
Gerald.
Hush.
Gerald.
Hush. Everybody failing.
I didn't laugh at you.
Oh, all right, you can pass. Gary and Harold parked the ambulance and put on their reflective gear. They performed. Are you laughing now?
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Oh, you still fail. They perform a careful scene size up and determine that they have one single patient. After assessing the patient and beginning treatment, they begin transport to the hospital where they transfer patient care to the emergency department staff. Gary finishes the patient care report while Harold takes the necessary steps to return the ambulance to service. And he makes sure he puts his stretcher back in the truck. So when he gets to the next call, he has a stretcher. All right, here's your lesson summary. Anybody got any questions?
So, if you do